Hello, Facebook. Hello, Instagram. Hello, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Welcome to a Fabulous FRI-YAY on Miss Hope's Reading Hour. Welcome to everyone. I'm so glad that you're here. So glad that I got to see you all. Okay, so how was your day? I wonder. How was your day? Was it good? Mine was okay. Had a pretty laid back, chill day. So, as some of you may have known, had a little back trouble. Yeah, I did. But I feel much, much better today. So, today is definitely a Friday for Miss Hope, okay? So, I went out and I checked my plants. They are doing well since I got my bird squirrel net put around them because I was like, y'all not going to keep eating up my stuff now and digging in my dirt. All right. So it's working like a charm. And I didn't even have to water anything today because of the natural rain. Of course, I told you all they love that natural rain, right? So I am so glad to see all of you here today. So glad that you could join Miss Hope for Miss Hope's Reading Hour. So we have a little mystery today. What is the mystery? The mystery is what is going to be our new chapter book. Because last week we finished Crenshaw by Catherine Applegate. Was that or was that not an awesome book? That book was so good. So good about telling the truth about your feelings and, telling people how you need to know if something's wrong. Like, it was just so good. Parent friends, parent teacher friends, this coming school year, if you want a really good book that can teach some really good lessons, please look into Catherine Applegate's books. Also, I can't remember exactly when in August, but the one and only Ivan, for all of you who have Disney Plus, the one and only Ivan will be coming to Disney Plus, a movie, a feature film about the great book that we read. The one and only Ivan was our first chapter book. Can you believe that since April, we have went through 3 chapter books? Can you believe it? Okay. So this will be chapter book number 4. Amazing. Amazing. How many of you didn't think you could go through 1 chapter book, right? But together, a word on togetherness, working together, we were able to get through 3 chapter books, and now we're starting on number 4. That's pretty amazing. So let me tell you about our first 2 books that we are reading today. Our first book is called Pirate Chicken, All Hands on Deck. You're going to like this book, okay? I know you're like, pirate chicken? Chickens, pirates, what is happening? You'll find out in Pirate Chicken, All Hands on Deck. This book is by Brian Yanish, pictures by Jess Powells. You will like this book. Our second book is called Number One Sam. This book is by Greg Pizzoli. Number One Sam. A dog in a car. Number One Sam, what is this going to be about? You're going to like this book too. So, have you ever wanted to be the best at something? Wanted to always come up and be the best, but it didn't quite happen the way that you thought it would? These books today will speak to that wanting to be the best, but it doesn't quite pan out the way you think it will. Okay? Also, after we finish the first two books, then we will reveal the new chapter book. You thought I was going to reveal it right now, didn't you? Nope. You're going to have to wait. So, for those of you on Facebook and YouTube, you can see at the bottom there is a little ticker that shows the Cash App handle and the email address if you want to donate to Miss Hope's Reading Hour. So the Cash App handle for everyone is Hope GM, HOPEGM, all one word, all lowercase. And you can donate any amount that you would like to Cash App for Miss Hope's Reading Hour Library, or you can email I just lost my train of thought, friends. Forgive me. So you can email a gift card from any book retailer that you like to Miss Hope's RH at gmail.com. Miss Hope's RH for Reading Hour at gmail.com. So you can email me an Amazon gift card, a First Book gift card if they do that, a Barnes & Noble gift card, a Visa gift card. And all of those gift card monies will go to beef up Miss Hope's Reading Hour Library. That's what it's all for. The Cash App all goes to Miss Hope's Reading Hour Library. So that is how you can donate, okay? All right, now let's get to our first two books. Excuse me, Instagram, there's something that I need to do. There you go. I needed to see something. Sorry, guys. Now, let us get to our first book, which is Pirate Chickens, All Hens on Deck. That's pretty amazing. You're going to be like, pirate chickens, what? All right, friends. Now, let us have a little ambiance with our pirate chickens, all hands on deck. Let's see. Ooh. Pirate chickens, all hands on deck. Lily was not an ordinary chicken. You see that? While other chickens pecked and plotted. While other chickens pecked, she plotted. Can I get a hand? They roosted. She read. So that's why they call it cold fusion. They were happy to live life on the farm. But Lily wanted to see the world. She knew she was meant for more. Really? What more could a chicken do? Let's see. So by chance, when a band of pirates invaded one day, Lily saw her moment. I'm scared, clucked one hen. I'm going to hide in my nest, squawked another. Reporting for duty. She said, oh no. Lily saw her moment. The pirates gathered all the chickens and took them to their ship. Oh boy, are they going to eat these chickens? At sea, Lily was a fast learner. Where's the poop deck? But the pirates paid no attention to a silly chicken. One afternoon, they stopped at an island, and the pirates forgot one very important thing. While the pirates sang and danced the night away, the ship drifted. You see what they forgot? To put the anchor down. Too busy partying. And by morning, the chickens were in charge. She had, of course, prepared for this. Her loud voice boomed across the deck of the ship. All hands on deck. The chickens clucked to attention. I'm your new captain, and you're my chickie crew. Lily taught the hens to read the maps, hoist the sails, and steer the ship. Those are some talented chickens. They sailed to fantastic lands. They sang the rowdiest sea songs and held the most outrageous chicken dances. But Lily still wanted more. Lord, could you want? You got your own ship, a crew, songs, parties. She rounded up the crew one day. If we're real pirates, we need to pillage and plunder. The chicken crew looked at her blankly. It means we rob and steal and take whatever we want. Hooray! They were excited about stealing. I don't know about these chickens. Before long, Lily was known by a different name. Wanted, Redfoot. Reward, $10,000. Redfoot ate the most feed. I bet I could eat more. Redfoot demanded the cleanest ship. I want this deck so shiny I can see my feathers. Redfoot gave the hardest homework. You didn't carry the 4. Oh man, I'm a pirate and I still got homework? What's up with that? Oh man. The crew was unhappy. Why do you get to tell us what to do? Clucked one hen. How come your nest is bigger than ours? Squawked another. And why do I have to do homework if I'm a chicken? Clucked the third. Yeah, I want an answer to that question too. It was a mutiny. The crew captured Redfoot and made her squawk the plank. It's walk the plank, actually. This was the end. Oh no. Wait, said Redfoot. I once was free. I clucked, I pecked, I flapped my wings without care. But I wanted more than an ordinary chicken life. Now I have more food and treasure than I ever imagined. But everyone is afraid of me. Redfoot raised her wings and tossed her hat into the waves. I am not a terrible pirate. My name is Lily, and I'm a chicken. She came to senses. The crew looked at her and clucked to themselves. And then they all threw their pirate clothes overboard. All hands on deck. We've got a new mission, my friends. Together, they found a small island to call home. There they flapped their wings as chickens do, and Lily gave up the rotten pirate life for good. It's not the life for me, friends. It's not the life for me. But she still had other plans. See those books? She's looking about rockets and space. Astronaut chicken, all chickens, rockets go. Is that coming? Who knows? The end. Pirate chicken, all chickens on deck. So, Lily wanted more. She wanted to be the best. Usually people who want to be the best want more. But more didn't quite pan out the way she thought it was going to, right? Sometimes you just want to do more, but you get a little crazy with it. And your friends are like, all right, we've had enough of you. Okay? We're done. We're not talking to you or anything. And then you got to come back to your senses and think about, well, what is good about being a chicken? What's good about being me? What's good about being where I am? Sometimes in wanting more and wanting to be the best, you can't forget about what's good about your life right now. Okay? Great book, good lesson. So, from the pirates, wait 1 second, friends. I made a mistake. We are going to number 1, Sam. So sorry. I lost my car sounds, friends. Lost them. Didn't mean to do that. Let me try to find them. Try to find my car sounds, friends. Let me try to find them. Oh, yeah. Now, remember, always some technical difficulties. Number 1, Sam. You're going to like this book too, okay? By Greg Pizzoli. Number 1, Sam. Now, for our car sounds. Number 1, Sam. Sam was number 1. Look at that car. Nice car, huh? He was number 1 in speed. he was number one at turns. I love these pictures too. They're so vibrant. And he was number one at finishing races in the number one spot. Man, he's number one at everything. So, on the day of the big race, Sam wasn't worried one bit. He pulled up to the start, wished good luck to his best friend Maggie, revved his engine, and they're all ready. And boom! They were off. Sam zoomed up to speed and nailed all the turns. He and Maggie were neck and neck as they headed for the finish line. And then, what do you think? Do you think he won? Sam lost. Everyone was cheering for Maggie, except everyone except Sam. Oof, he looks pretty disappointed. Sam couldn't lose. He was the best at speed. He was the best at turns. He was the best at being number one. The night before the next race, Sam didn't sleep one wink. At the starting line, Sam was quiet. The cars lined up. The engines revved. Sam didn't say anything to Maggie. He was too nervous. In fact, he was so distracted, he missed the starting flag. Oh, man. Can he catch up? Maggie and the other racers had a huge lead, but Sam quickly gained on them. He was driving his best and soon passed to the front. Sam would be number one again. Look at that. He must be an excellent driver. He got back to the front? Come on. But then he saw them. What did he see? Okay, let's find out what he saw. 5 chicks crossing the track. He was headed right for them. Sam could steer around the chicks, but would the other racers see them in time? The pressure. Let's see. Screech! Sam slammed on his brakes. He scurried the chicks to safety as the other racers flew by. Man! Sam finished in last place, the chicks thanking him the whole way. Sam was disappointed. As he approached the finish line, he heard people cheering for the other racers. Oh, man. But as he got closer, he realized they were cheering for him. And even though he lost another race, His friends still thought he was number one. The end. So, my friends, wasn't that a great story? Sometimes trying to be the best, you can put a lot of pressure on yourself. A lot of pressure that if you're not the best, then you're just not good enough. And sometimes, as in the story Pirate Chicken, it doesn't quite work out as you think. Just because you lose doesn't make you a loser. That's something that I tell a lot of the kids that I work with. Just because you lose doesn't make you a loser. You win sometimes, someone else wins sometimes, and there is more than one way to be number one. Sam thought the only way that he could be number one was by winning all of the races. He wasn't even friendly to his friends after he lost the last race and started up for the second one. He was too worried about, am I going to be number one this time? But when he saw the little chicks, he had to think to himself, is it more important for me to be number one? Or is it more important for me to save these little chicks that can't help themselves? So he chose the chicks. And then everybody went past him. Talk about disappointment. But when he got to the finish line, he realized they were cheering for him. He also realized that there's more than one way to be number one. And that even though he lost a race, his friends still thought he was pretty great because of what he did. Let that be a lesson to you. Let that be a lesson that you don't always have to be number one in the same way. Okay? And just because you lose doesn't make you a loser. You can be a winner in any number of ways. Okay. Now, my friends, we have gotten to the mystery part of Miss Hope's reading hour. Okay. We have finished Crenshaw, the chapter book, and now we have to see what the new one is going to be. So, my friends, this was on the list of the other books that you voted on. Remember, there were 4, and you guys picked Crenshaw. I knew you were going to pick Crenshaw because you have fallen in love with Catherine Applegate. Okay, we all did because all of her books are so good, right? So, now our new chapter book is, drum roll. This is what we do in school all the time. Belly Up. This is our new chapter book that we are starting today. Belly Up by Stuart Gibbs. Let's find out what this is about. Try to think in your mind, what is this book about? There is a hippo upside down in the water, not looking well. Let's find out what this book is about. Okay. Belly Up by Stuart Gibbs. Chapter 1. Henry goes belly up. I'd just been busted for giving the chimpanzees water balloons when I first heard something was wrong at Hippo River. Large Marge was the one who caught me. No surprise there. Marge O'Malley was a security guard, but all she did most days was follow me around, waiting for me to cause trouble. I saw her slinking after me all the time. She'd always try to hide behind rocks and trees and stuff. But it was never hard to spot her because Marge was built like a rhinoceros. "You're in big trouble this time, Teddy," she snarled. She was making a big show of apprehending me in front of a crowd of tourists, shoving me up against the rail of the chimp and frisking me for weapons, like I was a mugger in some urban back alley instead of a 12-year-old boy at Fun Jungle, the newest, most family friendly theme park in the world. "Why don't you arrest some real criminals for once?" I asked. "Right now, you're the only person I see making trouble." "That's just because you're not paying attention." It was true. Half the park guests broke the rules. There were signs posted everywhere telling them not to feed the animals, or bang on the glass of their exhibits, or harass them in any way. But they all did it anyway. Only 10 feet from where Marge was patting me down, an entire family was pelting a baby chimp with peanuts. They weren't trying to feed it, which would have been bad enough. The animals had very restricted diets to keep them from getting sick. They were laughing every time they hit it. "Watch this," said the dad. "I'll bet I can hit him right in the head." Right as he was about to let it fly, though, a huge red water balloon sailed out of the chimp exhibit and nailed him in the face. It exploded on contact, drenching him. Before he could recover, another balloon hit him, and another, and another. The chimps were fighting back just as I'd hoped. That's why I armed them. If the security guards weren't going to protect the animals, then I figured I ought to help the animals protect themselves. After all, how would you like it if someone banged on your windows or chucked peanuts at you all day? Within seconds, the whole chimpanzee troop was lobbing balloons, howling with delight as they pelted the family from all sides. The family stumbled about, slipping in the water and spluttering for air. And now everyone was laughing at them. Well, everyone but Large Marge, who was born without a sense of humor. She whipped out her radio and alerted headquarters. "HQ, this is O'Malley. We have a water balloon situation at Monkey Mountain. I've apprehended the perpetrator, Mr. Theodore Fitzroy. But I need backup." Marge always spoke like she'd seen way too many cop movies. "Never mind that," the dispatcher responded. "Get over to Hippo River. We're getting reports that something's wrong there." Marge frowned, though not out of concern for hippos. She was annoyed at her request for backup had been ignored. "I don't think you appreciate the magnitude of the situation here." "This is coming straight from Buck," the dispatcher said, meaning Buck Grassley, the chief of Fun Jungle's security. "Hippo River is a code red. If you're at Monkey Mountain, you're the closest to the scene. So get over there now." Marge snapped upright and jammed her radio back in her holster. The idea that there was an actual emergency had stirred something inside of her. She grabbed my ear and dragged me toward the exit. "Don't think this saves your bacon, mister. You're still in trouble for what you did to that poor family." "That family ought to thank me," I told her. "If I hadn't given the chimps water balloons, they'd have thrown poop." I wasn't making that up. I'd seen chimps defend themselves in the wild by throwing their own feces. But as usual, trying to explain anything to Marge was useless. "Watch your language or I'll wash your mouth out with soap," she snapped. The family that had been bombarded with balloons stormed out of Monkey Mountain right behind us, so soaked that their shoes sloshed. See if we ever come to this park again, the mother announced indignantly. Good riddance, I thought, stifling a smile. The family that had, the truth was, except for Marge's vice grip on my ear, I was happy to be heading to Hippo River. I wasn't sure what a code red meant, but it promised to be interesting. Maybe some clumsy tourist had fallen into the exhibit and needed to be rescued. Technically, that was probably a bad thing to hope for. Most people don't realize that hippos are actually the second most dangerous African animals. Water buffalo are the first. They're mean, they're unpredictable, and they have razor sharp teeth a foot long. In the wild, they've been known to stomp lions to death and bite crocodiles in half. If someone fell into that hippo's territory, they'd be screwed. But after a few weeks at Fun Jungle, I was bored out of my skull and willing to take excitement anywhere I could find it. That might seem pretty surprising, given that I spent every day at a place that claimed to be America's most exciting family vacation destination. Fun Jungle was the biggest, most elaborate zoo ever built, and it had been jam-packed since it opened 2 weeks before. But unlike the thousands of other kids who visited every day, I didn't go home when they closed the park at night. I was home. Both my parents worked there. My mom was a famous gorilla researcher. My dad was a renowned wildlife photographer. They'd met when National Geographic had sent him to photograph mom's gorillas. Now, mom oversaw the care and research of all Fun Jungle's primates, while dad worked for the publicity department, taking glamour shots of the animals for websites and magazines. Fun Jungle had been built way out in Texas Hill Country, where land was cheap. The closest city, San Antonio, was more than a half an hour away. So the park had provided housing for my family and a few other animal specialists who'd come there to work. Our mobile homes sat just beyond the back fence. None of the other specialists had children, though, which meant I was the only kid for 30 miles in any direction. Now, don't go thinking I was bored because I don't like animals. I do. In fact, I bet I know more about animals than any 12-year-old you've ever met. I spent the first decade of my life living in a tent in the African Congo. I didn't see a TV until I was 6. Instead, I watched animals, and mom and dad taught me everything they knew. I learned how to track elephants, communicate with chimps, and defend myself against a hungry leopard. Heck, I learned about animals you've probably never even heard of: bongos and hammerkops, gaboon vipers, goonions. My first friend was a gorilla my age named Mfuzi. I loved being around animals every day. I was bored because, until not long before, I'd had an amazingly exciting life. Living in the Congo was one incredible experience after another. And when I did leave the jungle, it was always to visit fascinating places with my father on his assignments. Dad was a real adrenaline junkie, and he encouraged me to embrace adventure. We'd rappelled into caves to find giant bats in Mexico, stalked tigers in Uttar Pradesh, and even snorkeled with blue whales in Fiji. But then Right after I turned 10, a civil war broke out in the Congo, and my parents decided it was no longer safe to raise me there. If not for me, they probably would have risked their lives to stay with the guerrillas. Mom grabbed the first job she could find back in the States, a research position at Emory Primate Labs in Atlanta. But that was a bust. None of us was happy in Georgia. We all missed Africa terribly. So when my folks were offered work at Fun Jungle, which billed itself as the closest you can get in America to being on safari, we'd figured living there might be more fun for all of us. And for a while, it was. Fun Jungle was by far the best zoo in the world. All the reviews said so. It was 3 times larger than the next biggest zoo. Its exhibits were innovative, and there was plenty to do. But it still wasn't the Congo. After a few weeks, to keep myself amused, I'd had to resort to playing practical jokes, like giving the chimps water balloons, or switching the signs on the men's and women's restrooms, or replacing all the black jelly beans in Large Marge's lunch with rabbit poop. That's why I was fine with letting myself be dragged along to Hippo River. I was only hoping for a little excitement. It never occurred to me that Henry would be dead. It didn't occur to Marge either. She shoved through the crowd at Mbuku Hippo Overlook, still dragging me by my ear, flashing her tiny tin badge. And suddenly, there Henry was, lying in the shadow water of his enclosure, all 4 legs pointing straight at the sky. Most of Henry, and there was about 4,000 pounds of him, was underwater, resting on the bottom of his pool. I couldn't see his body, since the water was clouded with hippo poop, as usual. Only his feet were visible, jutting above the surface, pale white now that the blood had drained from them. They were thick and stubby, looking like giant moldy marshmallows floating in day-old hot chocolate. "Isn't that cute?" a mother asked her children. "Henry's sleeping upside down." Marge's grip finally relaxed on my ear. She was so stunned, she'd forgotten about me. Instead, she stared at Henry vacantly, not knowing what to do. She wasn't the only one. There was always a crowd at Mbuku Hippo Overlook, but today it was more packed than usual. Maybe word had got out that Henry had kicked the bucket, and some folks had come running to see. But most of the visitors appeared to be caught by surprise. They just stood there, gaping at those feet, unable to believe that Henry the hippo was dead. I admit I was pretty shocked myself. Since Fun Jungle had more than 5,000 animals on display, you expected things would go wrong now and then. Every day dozens of animals got sick. Maybe even 1 or 2 would die. But for Henry to go belly up, that was pretty much the worst case scenario, given that he was the park's mascot. Fun Jungle had been advertising all over the world for a year before it opened, and every one of those ads, every TV commercial, radio spot, and billboard featured Henry. Well, not the actual Henry, but a cartoon version of him, who said corny things like, "Come visit Fun Jungle. It's more fun than a barrel of monkeys, and I ought to know." Cartoon Henry didn't look much like the real Henry. He was skinny, purple, and friendly, while the real Henry was fat, gray, and mean. But that didn't seem to bother the tourists. Henry was famous, so they flocked to see him. It was bizarre. There was a far more interesting hippo, Henrietta, in the exhibit right next to Henry's. But most guests didn't give her a second glance. Henrietta could have done backflips and everyone would still be packed 10 deep to watch Henry nap. "Wake up, Henry. It's time to get up," a little boy near me yelled. Several other boys decided this was a good idea and joined in. Their parents looked at one another blankly. Cartoon Henry had told them all that a day at Fun Jungle was supposed to be nonstop family fun, explaining the circle of life and death threatened to be quite the opposite. "Johnny, please," said one mother. Her son was happily proving he could chant the loudest. "I don't think Henry is going to wake up. Hippos are very sound sleepers." "That's right," a queasy-looking father added. "Plus, his ears are underwater." Hippo River was the most popular exhibit at Fun Jungle, though this wasn't only because of Henry. It was right by the main entrance, the first thing visitors saw as they came through the front gates, and it was pretty spectacular, as it should have been. I heard Fun Jungle had spent more than $30 million on it. The exhibit took up 10 acres, and once you entered it, it was really like being in Africa. You started at the thundering 150-foot waterfall, then hiked through a jungle filled with birds and monkeys, visiting scenic viewpoints from which you could see flocks of flamingos, huge Nile crocodiles, and of course, the hippos. Each viewpoint had a quaint name that had been designed by a computer to sound African, even though they meant absolutely nothing. Gondogo Gorge, Lalabassi Basin, Wuluman Camp. The real draw was Hippo River, however, was the underwater viewing areas, places where you could watch the hippos through huge glass walls. This wasn't a revolutionary idea. Lots of zoos had similar exhibits for viewing polar bears, and a few even had ones for hippos, but no one had anything on the scale that Fun Jungle did. The folks who designed Fun Jungle were actually pretty smart about animals. They knew hippopotamuses were far more interesting below water than they were above it. Heck, a lot of the time, and I know this from experience, you can watch the surface for hours and never even see a hippo. They need to breathe only once every 10 minutes, and even then, they usually just poke their nostrils out. But underwater, it's a whole different story. Hippos swim, play, eat, give birth, nurse their young on river bottoms. Mom told me they also make baby hippos down there. But Fun Jungle kept Henry and Henrietta separated during visiting hours to make sure that didn't happen in front of the guests. Plus, while hippos look like big, lazy sacks of fat on land, they're surprisingly graceful in the water. So Fun Jungle had 8 gigantic windows to view them through, and even a pricey restaurant where the prime tables were right against the glass. Guests could have a $14 hamburger and watch hippos swim past a foot away. You can't do that in Africa. Unfortunately, there had been a few glitches with the exhibit. Most obviously, the water filtration system wasn't strong enough. Henry ate nearly 100 pounds of food a day and sent most of it straight through his digestive tract, clouding the water faster than the filters could clean it. If Henry stayed near the windows, where the water flow was better, you could get a decent, if somewhat hazy, view of him. But Henry preferred to spend his time in a small in the small backwater of his enclosure, wallowing in his own filth. This rendered the underwater viewing areas all but useless. Restaurant patrons ended up eating their $14 burgers with nothing to see except sewage. Of course, this was now a relatively minor problem. It was June in Texas, which meant it was 98 degrees in the shade. Under the harsh glare of the sun, Henry was starting to smell worse than usual, which was really saying something. Hippos are naturally quite flatulent, but Henry was the worst I'd ever encountered. He could emit odors powerful enough to make you nauseated 50 feet away. "He's not sleeping," a little girl said, wrinkling her nose in disgust. "He's dead." Other parents' eyes widened. The girl's parents immediately shriveled under everyone's gaze. "No, he isn't," the mother said hopefully. "Hippos don't die like that. When hippos die, they float on the top, like goldfish." "He's dead," the little girl announced again. "Let's go see the elephants," said her father. All the parents thought this was a wonderful idea. "Maybe they're still alive," another father said under his breath. None of the kids wanted to leave, though. Those who thought Henry was sleeping were intent on waking him. Those who suspected he was dead were fascinated. Know how kids sometimes can't help staring at something they're disgusted by, like roadkill? Well, imagine how captivating roadkill the size of a minivan would be. The parents who didn't look squeamish were growing annoyed. Many turned to Marge, expecting that as the only person in the vicinity wearing a Fun Jungle uniform, she should do something to address Henry's situation. But Marge just kept staring, slack-jawed, at Henry's corpse. Marge wasn't the best decision maker on normal days. I'd seen her take 10 minutes to decide whether to have the fried chicken bucket or the triple nachos grande for lunch. For the record, she ultimately opted for both. Faced with an actual crisis, her brain had apparently overloaded and shut down. Nearby, a teenager dressed in a Henry Hippo costume paced nervously, unsure what to do. His job usually didn't require much thinking. He was essentially supposed to stand still, wave hello, and let tourists take his picture. Umboku Overlook had been selected as the best place for this because it offered the most shade. The Henry costume was thick and heavy and had poor ventilation. In the direct Texas sun, it could quickly get over 120 degrees inside. On the first few days the park was open, the Henry portrayers had mistakenly been stationed at unshaded Umbolu Point. 2 had passed out from dehydration, collapsing on children. The actors only had hour-long shifts because they had to drink a ton of water to survive in the suit and would inevitably have to pee. However, their job orders stated that during that hour, they were never to leave their post, no matter what. The Henry on duty was obviously felt he shouldn't be there, lurking around the dead hippo like his ghost, but he didn't want to get in trouble either. An excited family came along. unaware that the real Henry lay dead just around the corner. And they then positioned their children at the fake Henry's feet for a photo. The worried actor fidgeted so nervously that the mother had to steady his hands twice. It seemed someone should take care of this, but since Marge was a basket case, that left me. Once the family had taken their pictures, I approached the actor and told him, "You should probably get out of here." "Are you from administration?" Henry asked, contorting to get a look at me. The costume had been designed so the actor inside could only see through some gauze in Henry's open mouth, which was angled downward. It was well suited to prevent the actors from stepping on children, but not for looking people in the face or, as had been proved on several occasions, avoiding low-hanging tree branches. Since I was standing outside of his range of sight, the actor had no way to tell I was only 12. "Yes," I said. "Now move it before you freak anyone else out." "Yes, sir." The actor hurried away so quickly he forgot to watch his feet, stumbled over a bench, and face planted in the landscape. I shook my head in disgust. Some people have way too much respect for authority. Well, my friends, this story is already a trip, okay? As my nephew David would say, "Hi, David, I see that you're on. It's already juicy," okay? So, Belly Up by Stuart Gibbs. We will continue with this on a marvelous Monday, my friends. So, let us go back over our books. Pirate Chicken, All Hands on Deck by Brian Yanish, pictures by Jess Powells, and Number One Sam by Greg Pizzoli, both awesome books. And we will continue with the juiciness of Belly Up by Stuart Gibbs. This was gonna be a doozy, friends. We're gonna love this one. Okay. Well, guess where we are at the end of Miss Hope's reading hour. Can you believe it? I can never believe that the time goes that fast. I'm always looking at the timer that you guys can't see, and I'm like, oh, we're almost done. I can't believe it. So, my friends, until a marvelous Monday, I would like to thank you for being here with me, for being able to read with you guys on Miss Hope's Reading Hour. I hope that you have a great weekend, have a whole lot of fun. Of course, if you go out, make sure it's proper social distancing and wearing a mask, okay? Until then, until the marvelous Monday, have a great rest of your fabulous Friday, okay? And I will see you right back here on Miss Hope's Reading Hour on a marvelous Monday at 3 o'clock with some more great stories in store, okay? Until then, have a good one and see you next time, okay? Bye-bye.